Okay, hey everybody, it's Dr. Michele Drake at the Drake Center in Encinitas, and I'm here today with a very famous local person, Bruce Ireland, who is the Snake Wrangler. I've been following him and kind of a fan for many years because of what he does to educate people on reptiles and the snakes, especially in our area, and what his group does to help people if they get a snake in their yard or in their garage and they need help with removing it in a safe way that's also very respectful of the reptiles too. So today our goal is to talk about, Bruce is going to educate you on the difference between the venomous and the non-venomous snakes, talk a little bit about the service that he provides and what these guys can do to help you out. And then also I'm going to go ahead and follow up and talk a little bit more about how to keep your dog safe. Maybe we can do that together. And then should your dog get bit, what do you need to do besides get in here really fast? So anyway, I think I'll go ahead and hand it off to Bruce and let him talk to you a little bit. And if you need me to hold that or if you want to put it in your pocket.
Just put it on my pocket.
He's going to actually show us some live snakes today.
So I prefer to have both my hands.
Yeah.
So first, let me say thank you, Dr. Drake.
Yeah,
I am thrilled to be here.
Great.
Yeah, I love any opportunity I can get to speak within my own community about snakes and meet some of the local people that here are helping with dogs that unfortunately do get bitten. Yeah. So what I'm hoping to do today is just show you that not all snakes are bad, not all snakes are venomous. In fact, in the state of California, there's 50 different species of snakes. Wow. And the only one that's dangerous to either humans or pets are our rattlesnakes. So the key is knowing the difference between a rattlesnake and all others. And we're really lucky because there's other states in the United States that have other types that aren't as easy to identify. But rattlesnakes have two key components that set them apart. One is going to be a really big head, and one is going to be that telltale rattle on their tail. Now, most all other snakes are non-venomous, so they're constrictors. So they're not going to have the big venom glands, and that's what causes their heads to have that triangular or diamond-shaped head. I've got non-venomous with us first, and I think what I'll do is maybe pull out a couple non-venomous to show you what I'm talking about when I say small heads. This first snake that I'm going to bring out is probably the most common snake that is misidentified as a rattlesnake. So we get a call, I show up and they say it's a huge rattlesnake, and I reach down and pick it up with my bare hands and they think I'm crazy, which I'm going to do now. So these are gopher snakes and super cute. They can get a lot bigger than this. These are probably, I would call young adults. These are wild, but look, there's absolutely no defensive behavior. It's not trying to bite me. But what I want to key on is the head shape. Tiny little head, basically the same size as the connection point of the neck. And then also, if she's going to stretch out for me, there you go, sweetie, is they have no rattle. So their tails typically are going to come to a nice fine point. So if you see a snake and you see its tail and there's no rattle, pretty safe bet it's not a rattlesnake. And then again, this head is tiny in comparison to a venomous rattlesnake, which I'll show you next. But before I bring out the rattlesnakes, I want to show off, if I can, a couple other types of snakes that we see here. So again, I've got a couple gophers here. Almost always they look exactly the same, although their shades can be quite different, but they can also get up to 7 feet long. So these guys eat 100% rodents. So rats, mice, voles, ground squirrels. So these are great to have in your yard. If your dog happens to encounter one of these, it's not going to hurt your dog at all. Usually the dog actually hurts the snake, but not a threat to your pets at all unless you have a pet rat.
Yeah, thinking about all the rats we have around here, I'd much rather have a couple of these snakes on my property than use rat poison.
Oh yeah.
So if you see one of these guys, you're lucky to have them on your property. Consider it like a lucky charm.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing, Dr. Drake, about doesn't want to go back in, about rat poison is it actually kills the rats, but it also kills anything else that eats those rats.
Secondary poison.
Yeah, you think about our beautiful owls and our birds of prey, or our bobcats, our mountain lions. They ingest a poisoned rat and then they go off and die, which is just terrible to me. Not a pleasant way to go. So the next snake I have is kind of rare. If I can get my bucket open. So this is called a coach whip.
Beautiful. I've never seen one.
Very rarely do we see them. They're called coach whips because they have that classic black head that looks like the handle of a whip, and then they look like the old-fashioned coach whip.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and they can get big. This is actually a pretty big female. You can see that they're pink on the bottom. Just stunning snakes. But again, harmless. Small head, pointed tail. They do get bitey sometimes. This one, I've been lucky, has decided not to bite me, and I have handled this one quite a bit for the last week. But very fast snakes. One of the fastest snakes in the state. So if you do happen to see one, good luck catching one.
Yeah, right.
I got really lucky. So we'll put her away.
Beautiful.
And then I'm going to bring out one other type of non-venomous, which are our king snakes.
Oh, I love these. They're so pretty.
The cool thing about king snakes are
Beautiful.
no two look exactly alike. Do you want to hold one? She's real friendly. So this one we would call banded, but what's cool about this one is that her bands are broken on some of them, which means they don't fully connect. But typically they're nice gold bands all the way around. But this is also a king snake. Exact same snake with a striped. So they rarely look the same. But what's cool about king snakes, and a lot of people call them the good snakes, is because their primary diet source is other snakes, including rattlesnakes. So they're immune to rattlesnake venom. So a snake this size, which isn't that big, she's probably 2.5, could easily consume a rattlesnake of the same size.
Wow,
which
amazing.
you think that is
Yeah.
truly amazing, but I've
Great.
seen it. It happens. Yeah, and these guys, if you ever see these guys in your yard, definitely please don't ever kill any snake, but especially these guys. I mean, these are just, and again,
Beautiful.
these are wild snakes. I've only had them in my care for maybe a day or two, and not biting me, not doing anything, not biting Dr. Drake.
No.
So
Great.
beautiful snakes to have around. You're very lucky if you find these guys in your yard.
I've had a
And
couple of these in my yard.
they're fabulous
Yeah.
snakes. We love our kings. You did really well.
Yeah. I love them.
Their first line of defense is to go to the bathroom on you.
They
So
did.
they did. Okay. Well, we'll wash that off. Yeah, it's really not a pleasant smell. Okay. So now we're gonna pull out, and I'm gonna lift it up here.
I'm going to step away.
Yeah. So we have two types of rattlesnakes here in coastal San Diego, North County. One is called a Southern Pacific, which is what these are. The other one is called a red diamond, which is the one you saw.
Okay.
The red diamonds are far less common. Of all our calls, and we get about 400 to 500 calls a year, this is primarily what we're going to get. I don't know if your microphone is picking that up, but if not, I'll do a little. That is the sound. People call and say, I think I have a rattlesnake, and I tell them to hold their phone up so I can hear it. I'm like, nope, that's a bird, or nope, that's an insect. This is a sound you can't mistake. They can shake their tails constantly for up to 2 hours, and they can shake their rattle 100 times in a second. Think about that. I can't shake anything 100 times in a second. So I'm going to bring this one out. Again, this is not, I'm going to use my tongs. These are not pets by any stretch. Oh yeah, she's jumpy. But what I want to focus on with this guy is, if you can see it on camera, is 2 points. They're much heavier bodied, they're thicker snakes. And then look at that big head. Okay, that is because on either side behind those eyes are their venom glands, okay? And of course that rattle is shaking 100 times a second to create that sound. And that is a defensive measure. They are scared, they are nervous, they think we're gonna hurt them. Therefore, that's your warning. Stay back or you're gonna get bitten. These snakes will often rattle before they choose to strike, but not always. People are always like, they're good because they give you a warning. Well, some do, some don't. This guy is focused fully on me and my movement, but I am safely out of range. However, what I always suggest is, if you see a wild snake out hiking or biking and it's stretched across the trail, if you have the option, go around the other way, go back the other direction. When they're coiled like this is their defensive position, and this is how they're going to launch their strike. So a rattlesnake can strike about half its body length. This is about a 2.5, let's call it 3 foot for easy math. So 1.5 feet, I'm outside of range. So he could hit me if I was any closer than that, but we're not going to test that. Dark coloration makes them incredibly difficult to see in leaves. If this guy was on anything other than a white towel, or if we put him in some kind of, ground cover, he would just disappear. And that's their first line of defense, is hoping you walk right by me and you're not going to see me, and then I don't have to bite you. But even though this is an agitated snake, he's not jumping at me, he's not chasing me. Snakes do not chase humans. He wants to move away. His direction is trying to get away from me. I pull him closer, he's going away from me. He's just trying to get away from humans. So yeah, these are the ones you got to watch for with your dogs, your cats, pretty much any pet. Kids, yeah. Oh, certainly humans, yeah. A bite from one of these guys is going to land you in the ER for about 5 days. I notice you're getting further and further back. I mean, I literally just got this snake today, so it's probably never been around a human. It's being pretty well behaved, although you hear that rattle has not stopped yet. But it's confused. It doesn't know, what am I doing? Why am I touching this snake? But again, they're not evil. They're not horrible. This snake is not out to hurt me. If I kept pushing my luck or if I tried to pick it up, I'd get bitten. So rattlesnakes are pit vipers, which means they have nose holes. They also have pits. Those pits are sensing heat. So he's picking up probably a big thermal image in my big chest right here. And if he decided to, he could try to bite me. So far, he's been pretty sweet for a rattlesnake. These get big. They get up to about 5 feet long and heavier. Oh, it's going to stop rattling for us.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, ask. I could keep talking.
I mountain bike, and they're quite often they're stretched across the
Yep.
trail.
Yep.
And so I've always felt like if I just give them at least a foot, I can go past.
You
them.
can.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I
So
feel like they completely. They seem very docile.
no,
ignoring me.
and so
Okay.
when they're stretched across the mountain bike trail, they're cold-blooded.
Okay.
So they come out to pick up the heat from the sun. So what they're trying to do is make their body as big and as attractive as possible to the sun, which warms them up, and then they go hide for the rest of the day.
It is out near Black Mountain that I have seen that other type of
The red
rattlesnake,
diamond,
the red
yeah,
diamond a
they're
couple
beautiful.
times.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
They're stunning. Like I said, I see 10 of these for every one of those,
Okay.
and I get so thrilled when I get to see them because they are typically much more docile. Now this one's calming down. So do we have a second to talk about that rattle?
Yeah, I love it.
So a lot of people think you can age a rattlesnake by counting the number of rattles if he stops rattling. Hey, he's trained. Look at that. That's not true. Basically, rattlesnakes are born with a tiny little button at the tip of their tail that's called their birth button. Then every time they shed their skin, after that, they gain another section of rattle. But they can shed their skin up to 5 times a year.
Oh, wow.
So a 1-year-old rattlesnake, in theory, could have 5 rattles. So this could be a 1-year-old, it could be 3 years old because the rattle is not complete. It's broken off.
Could be 1-year-old?
It could be, nah, this is too big for a 1-year-old.
I feel like when I see the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the baby or the really small ones is they have that really dark black and white almost look.
Yeah, I've got a baby and I'm going to bring it out next, but I don't. So again, the rattle it grows as they shed, but it's made out of the same material as our hair and our fingernails, keratin. So if I was to grow my nails out long and continue to do a rough life like I lead, they break off. Same exact thing. His rattle could be that long. That's how old he probably is, but they just break off all the time. So his rattle is not complete, and we rarely see a fully intact rattle. So he's not taking his eyes off me yet. His pits are picking up heat. I'm out of range, but that's about as far as I want to push it.
You look a little close to me, but
yeah. Well, I highly recommend nobody get as close as I am. I kind of know exactly how far he could strike, but he's being pretty well behaved. I'm actually pleased.
I just don't like when he starts looking at me. It makes me a little anxious. So,
And they do actually watch. They have decent, I won't say good eyesight, but they track movement. So as I move, he can see me. See, he's following my movement. But he still is trying to get away from me. People think sometimes they might chase you. He wants nothing to do with me. Not that I would want to test that theory, but so we'll put her back.
So
All right, my love.
I heard one time that the most frequent bite for a human is a young man in their 20s.
Oh my God!
They're the most likely to mess with them after having a few beers.
What a great lead-in. So, so here's some facts. In the United States, there's about 8,000 venomous snake bites a year. Of those, only 5-ish end up succumbing to that bite. So a bite and that leads to death is you have a better chance of being struck by lightning. But of those 8,000, the age is 11 to 29 with a measurable amount of alcohol in their system. Hold my beer. So I always say 2 chemicals come together when a bite happens, testosterone and alcohol. And if you choose to just leave the snakes alone, I guarantee that number of 8,000 would drop to less than half.
Right.
I mean, accidental bites where you actually get bitten and you never saw the snake are really rare.
We actually had a technician here who was bit by a rattlesnake walking her dog, and she just felt something on her leg and wasn't even sure what it was. And she
so that was an accidental bite.
Accidental bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just talking, she and her friend. They probably didn't hear
the
rattle, whatever. But, yeah.
And they happen. I've interviewed probably a dozen bite victims now, and most were, I was choosing to move it. I chose to try to get it in a bucket. I chose. Had they not done that, they wouldn't have been bitten. But I did meet two people. One was running on Encinitas golf course, and one took his dog out to walk to pee in the backyard, didn't put shoes on. Same thing, felt something thump his leg, looked down, and it was actually still there, attached. It didn't pull back, which is weird. So, yeah. And if we have a second, I'll show you the little baby.
Of course, I'm fascinated, so I want to see all them all.
Yeah. So, it's interesting is, this is obviously not the snake's mother, but they curled up to each other and almost acted like, and the little ones are really hard to work with because they're so tiny. Whoop.
So maybe you can dispel the myth that everyone always says that babies are more venomous, which I didn't believe.
So the myth is, and this is probably a 3 to 5, maybe 6 month old rattlesnake, just as toxic. The venom in this snake is still dangerous. But the myth is babies are more dangerous because when they bite, they can't control their venom, so therefore they give it to you all, and that is absolutely a myth, been disproven many, many times. All venomous snakes, from the second they're born, have full control of their venom. In fact, they can control fangs independently, so left and right, which you think, well, why would they need to do that? But a lot of times they'll strike their food, and let's say it's a mouse, and they only hit with their right fang. Left misses. Why would they want to inject that precious venom straight out into the air? So they can control, and they can also do what's called a dry bite. And a dry bite, they say, is about a third of the time they bite humans, they don't inject any venom at all. Dry bite, meaning this snake chose to not envenomate when it bit you. It's more of just like, back up. So what's cool about this particular snake is I see lots of babies. One, it's just eaten. So you see a bulge. And who knows, it's probably a baby mouse, could be a lizard, don't know. But what's really interesting is this rattlesnake has completely lost all sign of a rattle. It looks as if it's been bitten off, hit by a car, but this snake will never grow that back.
Oh, wow.
It's lost right at the nub. Remember earlier I said it'll break off the tip? It's something's not right. And this snake would never grow back a rattle, which you think, well, that's going to be really dangerous because this guy could never warn you. True. I still haven't decided what's the right thing to do with this particular snake because he could be 4 feet long in a few years and no rattle. So I don't know yet. I just think it's cool that he is still a rattlesnake. In fact, the lady that called me, she said, I have a snake, but it doesn't have a rattle. It's not a rattlesnake. I go and I always say, send me a photo. She sent that. I'm like, oh, it's a rattlesnake. It just doesn't have its rattle. So anyway, this is a baby, very young, same type of snake as that. You can really see that little chubby belly. So he's done some good eating something, but we'll put, whoop, whoop, whoop. Dropped him on your floor. All right, there. Now we can rest and talk.
Okay. So maybe you could just tell me, I have some thoughts, but I'm sure you have more thoughts about like best ways for people to keep their dogs safe. Yeah. Well,
first of all, dogs are curious by nature. So the first thing dogs do when they smell or sense something they're curious about, they put their face right up to the dog. And that's why, and you could attest to this more than me, I would assume most bites are head, face, ears, nose, muzzle.
Muzzle's like 99% of them,
So keeping your dog on the leash when you're out on a hike or a walk is key. If you choose to let your dog off and it runs into the bushes and gets bitten, it's not really the snake's fault. Because these snakes, they're not out to get humans, they're not out to get our pets, but they're also going to defend themselves. And they see a big furry face with a nose and teeth coming at them, they're going to think it's a threat, so they're going to bite. So try your best. I'm a dog owner. I know it's hard. Sometimes I want my dog to get off and run free, but it's just risking it. Now, in your own backyard where you don't want to ever use a leash, what we always suggest is try to monitor when it's outside. We get to know our dogs really well. I know if my dog barks or growls, something's not right. He's usually, or she, excuse me, doesn't bark at all. So if I hear a bark, I immediately run outside. It's usually the postman or a neighbor, but I have found her face to face with lizards, and I'm like, nope.
Right.
But she hasn't faced a snake yet. But the best thing to do is just know your dog, and if it starts to pounce or growl or run around, there's probably something you should investigate. It might not be a snake.
So what do you think about the snake fence? Like,
snake fencing works very well.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard
it's
that's like the 1/4
exactly.
inch is like the space we need.
Exactly.
It should be about 3 feet up.
So snake fencing should be professionally installed. Not every yard is going to work. Some people have these beautiful big properties with no fence around.
Yeah.
Snake fencing has to be installed against an existing fence.
Okay.
So what you want to do is put it on the outside of your existing fence, because if it's on the inside, they can actually climb the poles of your existing fence. So you put it on the outside. You want to trench it no less than 6 inches. That way it'll stop them from following a rodent hole and coming up back into your yard.
Okay.
We always say bare minimum 30 inches. 30 inches is going to keep out probably most of the biggest snakes in San Diego. You get a really big 5 foot plus, still might be able to scale, but 30 inches, 1/4 inch gauge, which I always use my snake tool. If I can get that through chicken wire or anything else, it's too big.
Yeah.
Like that baby we just had,
Right.
even though its head was a little bigger, they can push it through because that venom gland will flex and the babies can get in. It has to be installed where it's flush against the fence. You may have this beautiful bush or tree that you don't want to cut, so you go around it. Well, there's your gap. Snakes come right in. So you have to be willing to put it in correctly, or don't spend the money.
Okay, so let's assume our dog's barking. We've got a snake in our backyard, and people are like, I don't know what to do. Tell me about the service you guys provide.
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, I found out that in San Diego County, if you have a snake, most people are calling 911. And they dispatch a fire truck with fire people for about half an hour, an hour. They're off duty. Instead of fighting fires, they're at your house getting snakes. They fully have to dress in their safety gear, which they don't like to do. And they unfortunately kill the snakes. When I found that out, I just thought that was horrible. So I started to see what other options there were, and there wasn't any. So I thought, well, heck, I've been working with snakes since I was 7, so a long time ago. And so I used Nextdoor as a starting point and just said, if you have a snake and you want it moved, don't call the fire department, please. Because it could be non-venomous, it could be a rattlesnake, but either way, you don't want these guys and gals to show up because they don't want to kill the snakes. But that's what they're required to do. And from there, it took off. So what I suggest is if you see a snake in your yard, and it's a snake that you either recognize, don't recognize, but you don't want it there, our phone number is all over the place. I now have a team of 17 people. So any call we can pretty much cover. We say La Jolla up. We don't go too far south because there's another guy that does it down there, and we want to keep his territory safe. But we try to show up within 15 minutes.
That's great.
And all we ever ask is do your best to keep your eyes safely on that snake.
So
don't go back inside and get a cup of coffee, because once they move, they disappear. But if you see the snake and we show up, we'll get it out of there. We'll educate you a little bit about snakes, and then we go hike them back into nature.
Super.
So I spend most of my afternoons with a backpack on and going back into different nature trails, and I let these guys go where they came from.
Great. Can I grab that microphone from you?
Sure.
And if you think of other things you really want to say, mention it, jump in. So last thing I just want to talk about is if by chance the worst case scenario is that your dog does get bit by a rattlesnake. Most important, if they're small enough, you can carry them. It's great because the more they move around, the more the toxin will, or the venom will circulate. Give us a call on your way in. I would imagine every veterinary hospital in this area has anti-venom. We definitely stock it here at the Drake Center, and we're open 7 days a week. But if you're not sure if your veterinarian has it, you may just want to call and make sure that they have it before you head in that way, because we want to have everything ready to go. In my experience, the vast majority of bites, if you get them in here, pretty quickly, we're able to save your dog. So that's about it for me.
I have a question,
yes,
because I get asked this all the time, and I don't know how to answer. Does the vaccine work?
Yeah, so the vaccine, we recommend it primarily for dogs that are on large properties and have a high, probability of being exposed to rattlesnake. So we don't recommend it for everybody across the board. We'd rather just prevent a rattlesnake bite by keeping your dog on a 6-foot leash, staying on a trail where you can see what's going on. But if you're in it, sometimes in Livenhain and Rancho Santa Fe, we have some clients, Carlsbad, that have big properties. They can't possibly snake proof them, and they have a lot of snakes on the property. Then we do recommend it for those dogs.
Excellent.
So it does. We believe it does probably diminish the venom, or the response to the venom. So we think it's a good idea just in those cases. Otherwise, let's prevent it. Do your best just not to be exposed.
So if they've got the vaccine, because this is another question I get, they still need to come to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely
It's
need to
not
come. The most common symptom is going to be swelling, and it's very, very painful. A rattlesnake bite is tremendously painful, so we definitely want to be addressing the pain, and we want to use antivenom if it's indicated. There are some times where we think we have dry bites, and we can tell by the lack of pain. We can see the person saw it, but they're really not showing the other symptoms. We may not use antivenom on occasion, but most importantly, get in here right away, because we don't want things to go the wrong way, and we want to stand right on top of it for a while until we see that the swelling is going down and your dog's fine. It does cause, most commonly, it's sort of almost like a blood poison. It causes, we call it blood dyscrasia, where it affects the ability to clot, and there are other potential problems we see with the venoms. So we want to be monitoring those things pretty closely.
Excellent. Wow.
Great.
See, I learned from you so much.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No,
I mean,
awesome.
really, I'm so appreciative that we can do this, and hopefully we can educate people, and good luck getting those snakes out there for
Thank
us.
you so
All
much.
right.
So
Okay,
nice to meet
thanks.
you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you have any other questions, we're here at the Drake Center.